If you look at your life and see a graveyard of half-finished projects, a guitar collecting dust in the corner, a half-built website, baking tools you swore you'd master, and a sudden urge to learn jujitsu, you probably feel a very specific kind of shame. Society has a word for you, dilettante. They say you're chaotic, that you lack discipline, that you don't have the grit to specialize. You start feeling like an imposter because you can't just pick one lane and stay in it. You probably know the phrase jack of all trades, master of none, and you've used it to beat yourself up. But you're forgetting the rest of the quote. The full line is, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but often better than a master of one. Here's what psychology actually tells us. This feeling of being scattered isn't a flaw. It's a signal. It's the symptom of a highly adaptive nervous system. You're not failing to specialize. You're unconsciously building a rare cognitive structure known as the M-shaped mind. While the world keeps telling you to focus harder, your brain is preparing you for a future where extreme specialization is no longer an advantage, but a liability. Before we break down why your so-called chaos is actually a survival strategy, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Where this anxiety comes from, we need to talk about the lie you were sold. For most of the last century, the world operated like an I-shaped game. It rewarded people who dug one hole a mile deep. It was a kind learning environment. Like golf, the rules never changed. If you practiced the same swing for 10,000 hours, you won. But that's not the world you're living in anymore. Your brain knows this instinctively. The modern world is a wicked environment, one where the rules change constantly. In wicked environments, specialists are fragile. When industries shift, they don't adapt, they become obsolete. That's why you drift. One year you're obsessed with electrical wiring and HVAC systems. The next, you're deep into yoga, heavy lifting, and DJing rave music. To the outside world, this looks chaotic. They might call you unfocused, unstable, strange. But what you're actually doing is far more intelligent. You're collecting data points from wildly different domains. You're building bridges between ideas most people never connect. This is where the magic happens. Psychology calls it far transfer, the ability to apply knowledge from one field to solve problems in another. And in a world that changes overnight, that ability isn't a weakness. It's power. A specialist relies on near transfer. They solve familiar problems using familiar tools, again and again. But you operate differently. You use far transfer. You take an idea from one completely unrelated field and apply it somewhere new. You connect dots most people don't even see. Think about the web developer who used to be a beekeeper and a farmer. On paper, those experiences have nothing to do with coding. But in reality, they change everything. That background gives them an intuitive understanding of organic systems, feedback loops, and growth cycles. Something a coder who has only stared at screens their entire life could never fully grasp. They aren't just writing code. They're cultivating an ecosystem. That is far transfer. That is innovation. You feel like an imposter because you're not the best at any single thing. But that's because you're measuring yourself with the wrong ruler. Your value isn't in extreme depth. It's in synthesis. Now, realizing that your curiosity is a superpower can feel like a relief, but it doesn't immediately fix the heavier problem. The burnout, the anxiety, the feeling that you're behind in life. You look around and see people your age becoming senior vice presidents, lead engineers, or industry experts. And it feels like you're still standing at the starting line because you keep changing direction. This pain comes from misunderstanding the geometry of your own potential. You are not T-shaped, broad knowledge with one deep specialty. You are M-shaped. An M-shaped mind has multiple pillars of depth, connected by a bridge of curiosity. But here's the trap. You cannot build all the pillars at the same time. If you try to learn data science, write a novel, and start a business in the same month, you will collapse. Not because you're weak, but because that's not how this mind is designed to work. The people who successfully navigate this path, the true polymaths, practice something called serial mastery. They view life in seasons. You might spend your 20s obsessing over music and art. Then in your 30s you pivot into programming to pay the bills.